Hi all, my wife has many talents, but one of them is not juggling. So today I'm going to have to be fixing this ex-bathroom terrarium and putting it back to normal. Right, not sure you could hear me, but after filming that I decided I was going to look for some moss. So you might as well come with me. Look at this, it's all over the place. Now I'm right next to a main road, but look at that. That's awesome. So that's going in my box here. Look at this, in full sheets. So I'm going to be keeping some of this moss. There's absolutely tons of it. Look how green some of this is now. Look at that. Watch this. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that for a sheet of moss. How convenient is that? Flick the leaves off and it's in a place where it's pretty clean. But look at that. It's almost a lawn, and there's more. So we're going to keep that. Right, there's some other different types of moss here, some bum moss, etc. that I want to steal. And I'll come back to you on that one later when we've got some. And this is 5 minutes away from the part where I've just got the moss. You can probably still hear the road, but this goes on to some woods. So I want to see if I can find some different moss, because there was 4 different types I managed to collect. So I'm going to see if I can make it 5 or 6 before the end of this little walk. Look at all these. They look like clumps of moss. They're actually rocks with ready-made tufts of moss. So might be having a few of those, I think. Good for the collection even if I don't use them. Look at this. How's the focus on that? Is it focusing? Let's zoom in and see. Well, anyway, I am now standing in a stream. This is close to my home in the woods. As you see, tons and tons of fern moss. So I'm going to be nicking some of this. Not a lot, I don't want to nick it all. I'm nicking some of this because this is perfect. I'll be able to clean this up, quarantine it a bit, and we have a nice chunk of moss, but with the rest, jobs are good. I was paddling in the river for fern moss. My wife has been secretly collecting a bag of tamarisk moss, only because she wants it for the hanging baskets, but I'm definitely going to be stealing some. Look at that. Look at that undergrowth. There's so much moss in there. Mossy sticks, and there's tiny little ferns, everything you could ever wish for a terrarium. 30 years ago this used to be clay pits owned by a brick company, and where I'm standing right now it used to be about 60 feet, which is 20 meters deep, and in there there's loads of tiny little ponds full of newts, frogs and even fish, until the council decided to fill it all in, and this has all grown in that short amount of time. So it just proves nature finds a way. Back home now after a 20-minute walk, and this is what I've got. I think there's 5, maybe 6 species of moss in here, different ones. Look at them greens difference, and I've got some tamarisk moss in another bag as well, so what I'm going to do is find out a new home. So I've got one of these bins here, you see the size of it, only a few quid, and I've thrown some gravel in the bottom. Don't need substrate, because most of this moss comes with its own. So what I'm going to do is just pop this moss in this box and give it a water down, and we should be good to go. I promise we'll actually get on to making or fixing the broken terrarium eventually, but I just want to get all this moss, I'll take that brown off I think, into its new home for using on my future projects. Not sure whether I like this piece, might end up putting that around the pond I think. But this This is awesome. There's lots of little bits of moss in here they can use. Look at that lovely star moss. Where's the camera? Are you going to focus? Yeah. There we go. Let's get it all in here quickly. Stop wasting any spaces. This not only is useful for future, but it will eventually grow on here once I give it a good wet. Yeah. Now this fern moss goes in a different box. So there we go. Pop that there. Some of this might have to go in a different box as well. I've got so much of it just for that 20-minute walk around the corner. There's just so much moss where I live that I know some of you are going to be really jealous because you find it so difficult, and even some people have to buy it, which I would never dream of. So, I mean, you only have to see this to know it's one piece. So, I think that's going to be enough. I'm going to water this, spray it down, and we've got lots of different mosses to choose from for my terrariums. I'm going to get my other sheep moss in a different box. With the exception of this, believe it or not, this is one piece of moss. How's that for awesome? I'm going to get that watered, and this watered, and we'll get on fixing the terrarium my wife broke. Did forget to mention one thing: sphagnum moss. Rather than pick it, I buy it in these bags from my local reptile shop, which again is 10 minutes away. That's how lucky I am living where I live. Okay, back indoors now. I've got all my stuff behind me now. I've got the moss bins full, which is great. Always good news to have your moss bins full. You're not looking for moss or scratching around for it, because it's the most important thing in a terrarium. So let's have a look what we've got on this table. As she completely messed it up and it was completely mixed up, I've decided to make it again, and it's probably always a good idea to make it again anyway, because you never know if there's any fungus or nasty things in the jar. We might as well start from afresh. So I've given the jar a good clean and took everything out, of course, and got my stuff together here that I'm going to need, which is carbon fibre mesh, fiberglass mesh. Link in the description where I get this, as always. Some stones for drainage, bit of charcoal, which I'm not going to touch, a bit of moss that I liked, and some substrate here. And over here I've got a few bits of sticks and a broken snail shell that I found. What we need to do now is get them in this jar. Right, I hope this is a good position for you, because it's bloody awful for me. Let's start by checking out this pot and what we've got. I've got these parts here that I don't like. They're going to obscure any kind of view. I'm going to have to trade them off, because there's a seam down both sides of this pot. So I'm going to have to trade them off for the seam, unfortunately. But we have another 3 of these in the bathroom. So with a bit of luck, they'll all match and it won't matter. Just clean that a little bit. There we go. So let's start. The first thing I want to do is put some kind of drainage layer in. Now I can't put too much in because this jar isn't exactly massive. So I'm just going to drop a few in the bottom here. Like this. As you can see, a few more I think. That's not too bad. We'll get rid of that. And then we need to put a little mesh on top of here. It's almost impossible, especially in the position I'm in. Let's get this around. Try and flatten it out. And the object here is we don't want the substrate to go down and mix with the drainage layer, because that would be not nice. Because then you'd have substrate if there's any water in the bottom, you'd have substrate going with that water, it'd stand there and go stagnant, and your terrarium would stink. That's no good to anybody. I'm really struggling with this. I've cut this too big. Right. That'll do, I think. Yeah, that'll do. And I'm going to add some charcoal in here. I'm going to be cunning and use this because I don't want black hands. So, chunks of charcoal in here. This also helps stopping it stink. It also helps with springtails because they like to make babies on the charcoal. And that's what we want. Baby springtails, lots of them. That'll stop any mould. I won't stop it, but it will certainly get eaten by them. And now, what we've got is stones, carbon fibre mesh, and some charcoal. And look at that mesh sticking up there. It's no good to man nor fish. Right, now I'm going to put some substrate in there, cover that mesh anyway, so let's be anal and do it with a little shovel. You know, if I'm not on camera, I just grab the handfuls of this and pour it in, right? Just so does everybody else who makes these videos. But for this particular one, I have to be quite delicate. Also try and not get my hands full of dirt, which is something I normally do. Oh, get even more in there. And what we want to do, the substrate by the way is peat moss, sphagnum moss, orchid bark and cocoa fibre. There's a little bit of leaf litter in there as well, although I'm not putting any microfauna in here because this will be fairly sealed. There's something else I'd like to talk about, which is terrariums, sealing them, not sealing them. Not sealing them, that's the way. If you seal a terrarium, it becomes a cesspit. So avoid sealing it. Right, I can't even get my fingers in this. There is a gradient there from the front to the back that you possibly can't see. Now, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm going to have a look at putting this snail shell in. How? I do not know. There's nowhere to grab it, and it's already quite fragile. But I did like the shape of it, so I'm going to plonk that directly in the centre. Yeah, that'll do. And then I'm going to pop some moss around it. And then work the sticks in somehow, so it's not going to be a really complicated, doesn't have to be. I'm just going to pop this moss in. Yes, this is moss I found earlier because, as I said, it's not going to have any animals in. So I'm pretty much making a native terrarium with unwashed, freshly caught moss. I hunted this earlier and I'm using it. So let's see, can we get that chunk in there? Yeah, of course we can. Give it a push, we'll get that in there. Yeah. Do you know what? I think I'm going to use some charcoal to give the back some height. So I'm going to use these charcoal lumps, these larger lumps, and give it some sort of height. This might fail, but at least I'm trying. Yep. There's another one, that's quite a good one, that one. Yeah, quite like that one. I could probably stick some tamarisk moss down the back there. Let's just push this down a bit around the snail shell. And I'm going to break off a little bit of this moss here. Shame. There's a nice piece of moss. Didn't want to break it, but for this I'm going to have to. I want to fill that in there. Yep. And let's fill the cracks in that charcoal. Can you see that? No, can you? Fill the cracks in there with a bit of moss. I should push that over. This moss has got its own substrate on the back of it, so it's not just hanging there. Put a bit more of this in here. Wow, this is a struggle. Yes, I'm complaining. I'm not just going to cut the video and show you it done. I'm going to complain and moan until we get it right. I'll put a bit in there to trap that. Now, that's not so bad, but I think we're going to need some sticks. These have been boiled and cooked. And this little stick I made for something else, which was a little tree. This is tamarisk moss glued onto a little stick using aqua glue. So it's a little tree in effect. So I'm going to pop that on in here and see what it looks like as a little tree behind this giant snail. There we go. Now you may have noticed that I didn't spray after I put the substrate in. It's because the substrate was the substrate from the old terrarium and it was still quite damp. So there was no need for it. Now what we need is some fallen trees, I think. Let me just... Oh! That one looks quite... a dead tree, I suppose. Maybe? I don't know. Leafless tree. I'll pop that in here. Have we got a nice space between that moss? Yeah, we have. And I think we'll have some more. Cut a bit of that. I'm just going to randomly throw these in. Like this. Little logs have fallen. Maybe another one at the back. There, a dead tree. Yep, that actually looks like it's been sawn off now, or I've cut it with the scissors. And I think we'll see if we can get away with a chunk of carbon here and there. We should be able to give that a spray. Kill off the moss. Really didn't get it anywhere, so I don't really have to clean that much. But to clean it, get these out of my way. Just going to tear a bit of kitchen paper off. Use my tweezers and gently go around it. Try not to disturb things. I think there's dirty on the outside, this jar. Just a little bit. Got a good clean. It's where the glue was, that's what I reckon. If there was glue on it, I don't know. These were little yogurt pots. Let's plop that on. As I said before, sealing terrariums, not a great idea because they do need to breathe. Everything needs to breathe. If it's a screw top, it's generally not, unless it's got the rubber across the, get this here, unless it's got the rubber around here. It's generally not 100% sealed. So when we do this, yes, it is closed, but no, it is not a sealed ecosystem. So there we go. If I get an LED on that upstairs on my shelf, we'll be able to see what it actually looks like. And that was my 5-minute terrarium for the bathroom. Okay, this is what it looks like under a light. Hopefully in the bathroom it'll look alright and fit in with the rest of them. If you like this video, well, like it. And give us a subscribe. It's free and it really helps me out to keep making videos, and it also makes me realise that people want to see videos, so I'll keep on making them. Don't forget to tickle the bell either, because I upload quite a lot, sometimes twice a day, so if you want to keep up with me, tickle that bell. See you next time.